Well, hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to a bit more Stationeers. How are we? Well, I'm well. I hope all are well as well. Really quickly, I will say, we've been pushing that I'm doing a second channel at the moment. It's always sort of been there in the background, but more for like AAA playthroughs. All it is now is more of this. In fact, we've started a new Stationeers playthrough over there. It's on the moon from scratch. So if we've already got some newbies over there that are curious. Now, I'm not purporting to be an expert, but if you want to follow along with me from, inception, maybe you find that interesting. This is a much more hardcore run, being Venus. The other one on the moon, while it has its own unique difficulties, it's definitely going to be a bit more room for experimentation and some, harebrained inventions. So it should be good. So go over to the Scarlet Secondment and check that out if you're a fan of, well, anything on this channel, but especially this because we're doing another playthrough. Anyway, something else that occurred to me. I did a little bit of a Google. Now, remember, I don't count myself as a Stationeers YouTuber. I'm an indie game YouTuber who happens to do a bit of Stationeers. So I'm not up to speed on everything. I gave this a Google and I saw that there are grow lights these days. That was always an interesting thing. So I guess you can just grow your plants inside here and with a grow light. I mean, look, it's not cheating, but it definitely undermines the experimentation that I'm doing at the moment. Maybe they're difficult to build with their building materials and all that sort of thing. We're still going to persevere anyway. Okay. In fact, let's just, to be honest, I've lost all bearing of where I'm up to. So let's just, all right, our oxygen tank is serviceable. That's fine. Let's just get rid of this waste. Let's go outside and we'll do a quick bloody, we'll have a squiz. Bit of an inspection, an on-site inspection. Let's open this belt up, put this away. So, we're working on a greenhouse, essentially, built out of doors, because they can handle the pressure, whereas a glass wall can't. Oh, that's right! We're having some issues with this. Now, someone pointed out that the fan, I wondered what it was about the pressure issue with a vent. And it seems that it is hard limited to 100. Like this is sort of a hardwire logic thing, right? So for example, set outward. Oh no, inward, sorry.
Hunger, caution.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Let's say we empty this thing out to vacuum or nearabouts. Now let's say we turn it back in. Let's just turn it around now and go fill her up. It should cap at 100. Yeah, it's a good point. I forgot all about this. We can leverage this. Okay, so for our cycle in here, essentially we can, because we're going to 100, you know what? We could do it all with one pipe. Suck it in, blow it out. We could, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so what do I do here? Let's drill some stuff. Let's get rid of that. We won't need that. Yeah, we won't need that. No. Won't need that. So we should be able to make, like straight up, that should work. Right? So how are we going for oxygen? It's getting down. Inward, we come in, we drain our airlock down to vacuum. It can handle it because it's got composite doors. Right? Then we turn that off and then we go set outward. We draw in from there. I guess maybe there's nothing in there at the moment, which is fine. But then when we set outward, it will pressurize to 100. Then we'll be able to go in and that should be regulating in there. Now that's interesting, isn't it? In fact, we could probably... sit inward. Probably fill that room up like this. Do you know what I mean? Oh, hang on. It will be constantly sucking it into these pipe networks. 1.4 MPa. Okay, let's see how that goes. Right, so we're in 100. Let's just pretend this is the correct stuff for in the system. So we... Oh, I might have had that fan back to front. Oops. Put that in there. How much is that? 2 MPa. Okay, cool. So we come in here. We've drained that. We can then go... Right, we can fill this up. Cool. Bang. Look at that, equalized pressure. This should be constantly circulating that. It's hard to tell. I think it'll be hard to tell. Well, I suppose... Oh, there's hardly any pressure in there. 100 kPa. Okay, but it works. This was a pressure test. That's what actually truly mattered. Okay, let's get out of here because we're going to suffocate. We'll suck that in. This is how we... I know this is just hot air, but whatever. Bang. Out we go. In fact, we could attempt to equalize the pressure before we go out, but whatever. Okay, cool. That's good. That's good. It held 100 kPa just fine. And plants will love it. We just need to obviously regulate the temperature, which is something I haven't given a huge amount of thought to. Like, I know it's coming, so, you know, why overthink it? That's not good. What's drawing that power? Obviously, I've got those... Well, I've got those airlocks constantly circulating. Okay, no, that's right. It seems to be able to handle it. Okay, not the end of the world. Not the end of the world. All right, let's hit the bridge. $17, $16, $18. $4.8. What can these tanks go up to? It's like 10 or something like that. But remember, this is super cold, so it will expand. I guess it would pass through to the waste tank to a point.
Air tank critical.
So we can handle the pressure for the moment. I'm just aware of it because that's how I killed myself last time. That's all. Ah, okay, cool. Cool. So now what we need to do is come up with, we need to basically pipe regulated air, not super cold air, because that'll kill the plants as well. We need to pipe CO2 into that system. From this reservoir, which is, how is that going? -38. Right. 50 kPa. I guess it's cooling the fridge as well. Plus, oh, has this been turned on? It has. Okay. So not as much CO2 as I thought, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. Look at that, so little. But that's okay because we can farm CO2. That's the other thing, right? We can create an intake, which we might have to do actually. But we're going to have to cool it as well. We need to be sensible about this. Let me think about this. Well, hang on, because we've got to work, there's a problem here that we need to work from potentially one of two directions. Let's work backwards. We're going to need to hook CO2 up into that recirculating pressure area. Now, the way that that's working at the moment is I've got it set to always hold 100 kPa. Okay, so if I were to plug a pipe straight into it right now, it would never overpressurize because I've got a back pressure regulator, right? It's okay, so there's no like fatal flaw in that. That's cool. Now, the issue is it will now be heating up infinitely. I need to air condition it. Now, what's the best way to do that? Because I could treat the actual stuff,
Power low.
or I could treat it inside the room, is another thought. Right. Yeah, because I suppose... Because the issue is we're also using it as coolant. So we might even want to make our own separate system altogether. Because this isn't going to be coolant. This is food for the plants, right? So we're going to need it at, I don't even know what the ideal temperature is. But let's say it was between 10 and 20 degrees Celsius. That's not going to help here as coolant. And to be perfectly honest, I'm kind of enjoying cooling this down, right? However, the CO2 outside is 500 degrees, so it still needs to be cooled. In fact, what we're going to need to do is harvest CO2. We kind of want to supercool it. We don't have radiators, but at least we do have pipes, and we can use this vacuum cooling. So we can vacuum cool air that we bring in, but I don't know how quickly that's going to cool. And then we pump that into that system, but it still needs to be regulated. It still needs to go through an atmospherics regulator like this. Right now, in this particular, let's use this as a bit of an eyeball example. This isn't even for your benefit, people watching. This is for me. This is so I can understand what I'm doing. So we've got something pumping in from here, can vary from anywhere up to 500 degrees down to too low. Let's call it 0. It goes in the back, right? This will regulate it and then pass through into the room. I mean, alternately, no. I was going to say what we could do is try and treat it in the room as it's pumped in, but that's potentially going to be just super hot already anyway. Right, so let's say we pump it through, that regulates it, it sends the good gas through, which is kind of constantly circulating, right? The problem is, as that gets hotter, how do we bleed that out other than having a system that has just full circulation all the time, which is probably what we're going to have to do. Actually, oh, well, then we're going to be generating oxygen, which we're going to need to filter out. Well, okay, hang on. This is interesting because how much CO2 are we going to actually need to inject into the room? It's going to be consuming CO2. Okay, I understand that. Which means it's only going to, like, for the most part, we can just keep circulating the same CO2 in there. And potentially, what if we were just to treat it with a, I guess it's going to get infinitely hotter. If we're dealing with one type of temperature from one direction, we're kind of laughing, right? What if I just put a wall cooler? What if I put a wall cooler? Liquid wall cooler. Isn't that interesting? Let's build a wall cooler. Let's start with this. Right, so you have a look at the wall cooler, and essentially it has power and it has a pipe attachment. right? So we need coolant attached to that. So what we could potentially do is hook this up. Because this is waste, we could hook this up to like our main network, this thing, right? I mean, and basically just inject heat into the system. Got to be careful we don't blow the system up by doing this, but we could monitor it. I mean, if anything's going to be able to handle excess waste, it's got to be this pipe system in here. It's designed to cool. Well, actually, we've got it segmented a few ways around as well, right? What would be the best thing? Probably into the oxygen tank, to be perfectly honest, because we have so much of it. Right? 1.5 kilomole, right? And that's sitting at 23 degrees, so it's not as cold as I'd like it to be. But that's because... Did I turn this off, or...? Let's just turn it off. I suppose that's kind of a closed system there, right? It's doing the best it can with the surface area that it's got for the mole that there is. 23 degrees. I guess it's slowly cooling. There's just so much of it. Whereas this gets so cold because there's so little, but... We just have to make sure that we have the appropriate mole. Maybe this would do. There's 20 mole of CO2 in there. The thing that we need to consider is the greenhouse effect is going to be significant, right? If we can monitor that room and maintain it at like 20 degrees, and it's constantly getting heated by a 400-degree greenhouse exchange, that's nuts. We can't just hook this up to here, can we? No. Okay. I mean, we could try it with the CO2, but I feel like it's just going to superheat it. So that's also going to hurt our refrigerant here. However, like if we close off all these valves, I don't believe we're actually even using this system at this point. In fact, it's negative 40 degrees. I don't think you're going to do much better than that. Like, it's now a closed system. Unless it's consuming the gas or heating it, but I don't know. It's hard to pull metrics out of that. Well, now it's sealed, so don't even worry about it. Okay, well, we've closed that system at least, so this is only going to get more and more CO2 as we put more in. I suppose we hypothetically could feed more CO2 in through the waste filter. Like we could go and just chuck a bunch in. What filters have we got on the machine? A lot of theory crafting today, I know. We've only got the CO2 filter. There's O2 and CO2. That's right, and we accidentally got some other stuff from outside in there. That would be one way to increase our CO2 capacity. We might have to start filtering our O2. What I potentially should think about is putting a filter on here for what were the other contaminants in this? N2 is not a big deal, right? Nitrogen, that's fine. It's the X that's a problem. Okay, let's put an X filter on my tank now, and because we're potentially going to start mixing and matching, getting more pollutant in there. Filter pollutant, right? This is one of those things that if I don't address this now, it'll be too late when I think of it. Like, it will be all through my oxygen supply at lethal levels, and I won't have thought to filter it. Let's just put this... Let's put it there. I'll try and remember that that's a good one. Yeah. Alright, at least now that we've got a pollutant filter, we'll be able to pass it through my system. Now I'll be able to start feeding CO2 into the filter. Okay, that's cool. Now, are filters invulnerable when they're in this machine? I'm not sure about that. Yeah, I think they are. Yeah, so they only get used up, so to say, in my stuff. That's cool. All right, cool. So we're going to want to rig that into, well, for the moment, we're going to do the CO2, right? So is that pipe network being used for absolutely anything anymore? It's just a legacy pipe, isn't it? Okay, cool. Cool. Yeah. Okay. Let's start pulling it down. How are we going to place this wall cooler? It's got to go inside the system. And we're going to need to come up with a filtration to bleed the oxygen out of the room. But that I'm dealing with not now. That is a later problem. Alright, we got O2, we're good, we got power. Let's go investigate. Okay, wall cooler needs to be in there somewhere. Could run the pipe there.
Low.
I need to get the pipe inside, but there's no getting it through any of these walls without tearing them down. Interesting new problem, isn't it? How do I run this pipe unmolested all the way through everything? Like, through here it would have to be, right? So let's say we run it through the corner and run it across the top, because we can't have it crossing things either. And then we could just put it there on the ceiling. Okay, that'll work. That'll work. That'll work. Yeah, I suppose there's a scenario where I mix the filtration, like the filter, because I need to have a filtration system and I need to have a temperature regulation system. Because we're basically producing O2. If we leave it run with just cooling, eventually the room will stop working, or it'll be flooded with O2, which I'm not really excited about, because O2 go boom when you do bad things with it and make it really hot and leave it alone and that sort of thing. Now the plants, I've heard varying sort of reports on the efficiency of plants growing depending on the O2 level. I don't know about that, but that certainly couldn't hurt, right? Sorry, the CO2 level. The higher the CO2, the better the grow, right? Okay. You fuck. Why can't I cross you? Something to do with the curve on it. That's okay, we can work it out. Alright, we're gonna need a bunch more. Okay, so what this is going to do is basically, well, now we'll have, and this will be good because we're just doing it gradually testing, right? I don't purport to be some bloody genius that has the full plan worked out, but now we'll have a system that's constantly circulating and constantly cooling. We won't necessarily have a filtration set up for plants, but we'll be able to test at least that much, which is good. Hook up a bunch of pipe because we want to connect that there.
Power low.
Now, the real curious question is once we get to 20 degrees, I don't know what it's going to be. Let's say 20 degrees. Because that won't take, I guess it's not the highest pressure. In fact, that would be incentivization to keep it low pressure, if you know what I mean. Because it'll be less cooling. So the cooling, granted, we need to cool the room from 400 down to 20. That's no small task. Will it be able to do it? I don't know. We'll see. But the thing is, it's not a huge volume. It's like 1 unit. Potentially 2 once. No, when we go in it, we'll have to do that. But, and we don't have insulated pipe. Not that that's going to matter so much because that whole system is internal. Well, actually, this that we're taking external, we can't insulate that. So this is actually going to get heated by the outside. Ah, shit. There's nothing. I don't think I can do anything about that unless I were to build these pipes and then wall them in to insulate. That's an option. Well, this is gonna be tough, man. Because all these pipes are gonna stay open all the time. You know what I mean? Oh my god. This is such a problem to deal with without steel. Ah. Fuck it, let's go. If anything, I'll take the empirical evidence and call that a win, right? Like, how unsurmountable will this cooling job be? Oh, shit. You're not going to let me do that, are you? Alright, so that'll go in there. Man, this is going to be brutal. This is going to be brutal. The only other thing I can possibly think of is if I made my own reservoir. Let's, path 1, 2... Path. Where would I put a reservoir? In here. Seal it.
Waste tank. Caution.
In there. Seal it. Like, maybe I need to build a totally new cooling system that that is located physically over near there, so I can pipe it from the beginning. Man, I love the problems from this mode. You know what I mean? Like, inherent in doing this. All this shit would be easy if I wasn't constantly cooking. Oh, it's so good. Anyway. Alright, well, food for thought. After all that, I think the radiation heating of that pipe outside is just going to be too much. It's going to be too much, man. So I think we might have to consider building a cooling reservoir in there. I have to wonder though, like, does the tank cool better or do the pipes cool better? This is something that throws me off because it's all about surface area, as I understand. Like, if I've only got a 1-unit room to build, do I put a tank in there or do I pipe all the walls? Actually, you know what? The answer probably is both. Put a tank right in the center and run pipes all along all of the entire wall net system to create as much radiative, or whatever you want to call it, cooling. Anyway, we'll see. Team, thanks again for joining me. I might just leave it there for the time being, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.